Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. J.K. Rowling, long-time defender and campaigner for women's rights and freedoms, has said that the near-industrial scale of treatment for gender dysphoria in children is going to be one of the world's worst medical scandals. She objects to the trans groups trying to sterilise thousands of children every year and says something must be done. We're going to take a look at this article to see where she's coming from, what she's saying and what is happening. So here goes. So J.K. Rowling declares gender changes for kids one of the worst medical scandals in a century, and there she is. Someone who's done so much good by highlighting the issues that trans men pose, the dangers trans men pose for women in vulnerable locations. We're not talking out in the street, and she has never said that. She actually says she supports the idea of trans people. She says she doesn't want them turning up in areas that should be exclusively biological female, like crisis centres, DV units, that sort of thing. So she's not actually anti-trans, she's just anti-men in the wrong place. Anyway, enabling children in attempting to change their gender will be seen as one of the worst medical scandals in a century, Harry Potter author and ardent feminist J.K. Rowling said this week. Rowling, 57, who was once hailed as a feminist hero by the left, particularly because she wrote the first Harry Potter books while on unemployment benefit, which has been used as an argument for state handouts and even universal basic income ever since, before becoming an object of disdain over her rejection of modern transgender ideology. And this once again has called out the medical establishment and the woke left for pushing novel theories surrounding gender on children. Yes, they do have this thing, these people. The trans lobby has a thing for children. It really keeps pushing against, against all the rules. It just wants to be children, wants to get into libraries, it wants to get into schools. They all want to be near children. It's kind of worrying, isn't it, when adults constantly push to be close to children. And I think we all know why. Speaking on the Free Press podcast, The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling, the acclaimed children's author said, "We are watching one of the worst medical scandals in a century. Those that should have known better, the medics, and those who have unquestionably cheered this on, are creating a climate in which those trying to raise red flags have been intimidated and silenced. We're dealing with children, in my view, being persuaded that a solution for all distress is lifelong medicalisation. That is real-world harm. There's no closing the book and walking away. There's no playing with this, experimenting with this, and not suffering harm, in my view. I certainly hope that for adults who have found no other way to resolve their gender dysphoria, transition may be the answer. I want to see those people protected. I want their rights protected. I wish them lives full of joy and fulfilment. But when we're talking about children, I think it is a very different question." And she is right. These groups want to go in, and as soon as anyone shows any sign of anything, they go, "No, you're trans, you're trans, you're trans." There's children who are, little boys might pick up a Barbie doll. "Oh, you're trans, you're trans." And then they're rushing them through. They're rushing them through to get them sterilised. They're sterilising children on an industrial scale. The last time this sort of thing happened was in the 30s in Germany in certain types of camps. And these people are no different from what the Germans were back then. These people are destroying children. And there's often, you go to I've done stories about the clinics. There's often not even a doctor scene, not even a specialist scene. Certainly, quite a lot of the time, they're handed these medications without even a psychiatric assessment. The whole of the medical profession has just jumped on this because they're scared of being called an ist and a phobe by these mentally ill people. We need to ignore these mentally ill people. We need to say to this child, what is wrong? Is it depression? Have you got some other mental condition? Is there something going wrong at home? Are you being abused? These sort of things. There's children pushing for gender change, not because they're transgender, but because they think if they were a girl, the man wouldn't touch them anymore. This has happened. This has been provably the case. And nobody is protecting these children. Well, thank God J.K. Rowling is. Rowling went on to note that there seems to be some social contagion aspect to the transgender movement, with the disgraced Tavistock Centre and its Gender Identity Development Service seeing the number of young girls being diagnosed with gender dysphoria by the clinic increasing by an estimated 5,000% over the past decade. Should we not be asking why that is happening? The Harry Potter author questioned. Last year it was announced that the Tavistock Centre, the UK's largest gender clinic, would be forced to close down by this year, but yet still hasn't closed. It's still sterilising children on an industrial scale. Recently, the practices of the clinic were outlined in the book Time to Think, the inside story of the collapse of the Tavistock's gender service for children by the former Newsnight journalist Hannah Barnes. In a review of the book, even the left-wing Guardian newspaper was forced to admit that the practices carried out on children, including the use of puberty-blocking drugs, read like a dystopian novel. And it is horrendous. And I've done so many videos, so many stories about people who were taken in and they've had their lives destroyed. They've had bits hacked off them, bits cut out of them. They will never, have a child of their own. Never, because they've been completely sterilised, eviscerated even by the people in this hospital. People who are supposed to be medical, supposed to be doctors, supposed to do no harm, and they're doing harm. And I think that they all need to be prosecuted. And I'd like to see these doctors doing serious time, and I'm talking decades in prison for what they have done. Rowling, who described herself as a left-leaning in the podcast, took aim at her side of the political aisle for the puritanical, judgmental and authoritarian approach taken by the woke movement and how it is alienating large swathes of society, in particular young men. The left is making a tremendous mistake in espousing this quasi-religious witch-hunting behaviour. Well, they can do all they like. I don't give a fuck. Look at me. If you're left and woke, go fuck yourself. I don't care. Come after me. I don't care. Because I have got zero regard for anyone who thinks sterilising children is a good thing. And if you are one of those that go, yes, but maybe the child wants it, the answer is no. The fucking child doesn't want it. The parents might, because they're so madly woke, they think it's a virtue to have, oh, look at me, I'm special because I've got a trans child. The parents should be having these children removed from them immediately, and they should be, well, certainly investigated, but the children need massive psychiatric help, not surgery, not sterilisation. And if any parent does this, then that parent is not a parent and should not have control of children. They're shutting down debate, she said, and freedom of thought and expression. Not mine. I've still got thought, I've still got expression, and I don't care. If we cannot look to those institutions, then we're in trouble. Oh, we are so much in trouble, because it's not just the mad lefties doing this. It's impermeating all through government, all through the BBC, all through the media, even now in big newspapers, and they're seeing some trans guy, and they're calling she. He has committed an R of a woman. He is in a male prison. He, therefore, by definition, must be male, because it is actually illegal to put a woman into a male prison. And yet they're still calling her she. It's he because he's a him, and that is it. And I refuse to bow down and join in their delusion. Rowling has herself become a frequent target of the far left for her stance on transgenderism, including having end-of-life threats issued against her and her family because they want tolerance. The left, the trans, and we preach tolerance, we're just after tolerance, and then show zero tolerance to anyone who says anything that they don't 100% agree with. Anyway, I'm rounding off, I'm getting very angry, and I'll round off and come up. To treat the mass sterilisation of children with anything other than disgust and horror is the sign that somebody lacks compassion. They are single-minded in their approach. They are using these children as cannon fodder in a war that they cannot possibly win. The world rejects them. They're being rejected in sport. They're being rejected in changing rooms. There was a period last year it got that, men could go in. There's a lot more shops now are actually putting up female only. They're doing, anybody changing rooms, and they are doing biological female only changing rooms again, because women were not going in and buying stuff in these stores that allowed any gender into the changing rooms. Women voted with their money, and ultimately that is how you win. Any store that says, we have gender neutral changing rooms, that store will go out of business because women won't go in there and buy, and ultimately that's what they need. Especially the likes of M&S or Next and things like that. It's predominantly women in there. And so if the women aren't going into these stores, they'll crash and burn. And that's how you win. So just look to see who is doing this to children. Who is backing it. Who is saying that it's good. and then treat them as you know how to treat them, because nobody should be treating a child like that. Nobody should be sterilising children simply because they think it's a good idea politically. Anyway, I shall round off there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button right away. Ding it there and the bell so you know that I'm going to put future output stuff on. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. Don't listen to the woke left. They will get you in trouble. And goodbye.